From music to murder, the dark reality behind San Quentin's walls, the stage inside the walls. Before we dive in, hit subscribe, like, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Because after this story, you'll never listen to a prison concert the same way again. The year was 1969. The gates of San Quentin State Prison clanged shut behind the tour bus carrying one of America's most defiant music legends, Johnny Cash. The air was thick with tension and sweat, the metallic scent of confinement mixing with the echo of footsteps down concrete corridors. On that day, music would shake the walls of one of the most dangerous prisons in the world. But behind the applause, something darker was brewing, something no guitar riff could drown out. Cash walked into the yard, his black suit cutting through the sea of blue prison uniforms. Thousands of inmates crowded together, their faces a mix of joy, disbelief, and hidden rage. Some cheered, others stared with cold, calculating eyes. Among them was Eli Turner, a lifer serving time for armed robbery and assault. His face was tattooed with regret, but his hands, scarred and restless, were busy planning something that had nothing to do with redemption. The concert began, the strumming of Cash's guitar blending with the metallic echo of the yard gates. When he sang "San Quentin, I hate every inch of you," the crowd roared. For a moment, the walls seemed to tremble, not from music but from the raw, electric energy of men who had long forgotten what freedom felt like. What no one noticed, at least not yet, was the quiet movement near the back of the crowd. Two inmates, Turner and his cellmate Reggie Cole, slipped out of formation. They weren't heading for the stage. They were heading for Block D, where the prison's most feared inmate, Marlon the Saint Vega, was held in isolation. Vega had been waiting for months, waiting for the right distraction, the right sound to cover the noise of a break. Cash sang on. Guards tapped their feet, lulled by the rare moment of peace. But deep inside the heart of San Quentin, chaos was stirring. As Vega's cell door clicked open, not by mistake but by the careful twist of a stolen key, a muffled cheer from the concert masked the sound. Vega stepped out, calm and confident. He wasn't escaping, he was hunting. His target, Officer Daniel Morse, a man who had testified against him in an internal investigation, one that had cost Vega his privileges and reputation among the inmates. By the time Cash hit his last chord, the yard was electric, but not with applause. A guard's radio crackled to life. "We've got movement in D block. Possible breach." Within minutes, the music stopped. Panic spread like wildfire. Guards shouted, inmates scrambled, and somewhere in the chaos, a scream echoed through the hall. Morse had been found, unconscious, blood on his uniform, a message carved into the wall behind him. "You can cage a man, but you can't cage vengeance." Cash and his band were rushed out under armed escort. The prison went into full lockdown. No one knew exactly what had happened, but word spread fast. Vega had vanished. Outside the prison walls, news of the San Quentin riot rippled through the country. The footage of Cash performing became iconic, but the truth behind that day, the blood spilled, the guard attacked, the inmate who disappeared, never made the broadcast. Weeks later, Detective Lena Hart from the California Department of Corrections arrived at San Quentin. She'd seen riots before, but something about this case didn't sit right. Vega's cell was found empty, yet no signs of escape existed. Cameras were conveniently offline. Guard logs were inconsistent. And one of the prison administrators, Warden Franklin Shaw, refused to speak on record. Hart pressed for answers. "You're telling me a man vanished from maximum security during a televised concert, and nobody saw a thing?" Shaw's reply was quiet but chilling. "Detective, unhear, seeing and speaking are two different things." The deeper Hart dug, the stranger it became. Morse survived but couldn't remember anything after seeing Vega that morning. The prison logs showed Turner and Cole were missing for exactly 13 minutes. The same window during which the attack happened. When Hart reviewed the concert footage, she noticed something everyone else missed. In the crowd, behind the stage, a reflection flashed on the glass of the observation booth. A figure in a guard's uniform that didn't match any staff records. Someone had used the concert not just as a cover, but as a stage, and the act wasn't over yet. As Hart replayed the footage one last time, she froze. The camera panned across the inmates cheering, and in the back, half hidden by the crowd, a man with Vega's cold stare looked straight into the lens, smiling. But Vega was supposed to be gone. And that's when she realized, whatever happened inside San Quentin that day wasn't just a riot. It was a message. A warning that the real show had only just begun. The man who knew too much. If you think the story's intense so far, buckle up. Because what happens next inside San Quentin isn't just about music or murder. It's about the price of truth in a place where silence keeps you alive. 2 days after the concert, the yard was quieter than usual. The men who'd once banged on bars during Johnny Cash's set now whispered behind locked doors. Something was brewing, something no one wanted to talk about. Detective Raymond Hale, a veteran investigator from Marin County, got the call at 3 a.m. A correctional officer, found dead in his own car, parked half a mile from the prison walls. No gunshot, no knife wound. Just a neck bent at an unnatural angle and a cassette tape clutched in his hand. When Hale pressed play, Johnny Cash's deep, echoing voice filled the air. "I shot a man in Reno, just to watch him die." But underneath the music was another sound, faint like someone whispering. It wasn't supposed to happen this way. The cassette was traced back to cell block C, the same unit where one inmate, Frank Blue Morgan, had been serving life for armed robbery. He was known as a quiet man, the kind that stayed out of trouble. But according to the guards, he hadn't been the same since the concert. He'd stopped eating, stopped talking, and started writing letters, dozens of them, none ever sent. When Hale arrived to question him, the cell was empty. The bed sheets were stripped, the mattress torn open, and on the wall, written in charcoal, was a single phrase. "The music woke the dead." At first, everyone thought it was just inmate madness. But when Hale asked for Blue Morgan's file, it turned out something was off. The prison's record listed him as transferred the night before the officer's death. But no paperwork, no transport van, and no receiving facility could confirm it. "Someone made him disappear," Hale muttered. Later that evening, Hale met with Warden Langford, the man in charge of San Quentin's operations. The warden looked pale, exhausted, almost frightened. "You don't understand," he said quietly. "That concert, it wasn't supposed to be filmed. Not like that. There were men in that crowd who weren't even inmates." "What do you mean?" Hale asked. Langford hesitated. "You ever wonder why Johnny Cash picked San Quentin? It wasn't his idea." The air went still. Hale felt the chill creep up his neck. Whose idea was it then? Before the warden could answer, an officer burst into the room, breathless. "Sir, you need to see this." They followed him down to the security wing, where a technician had been reviewing old footage from the concert. The tape was grainy, the sound uneven, but one frame caught Hale's eye. During Cash's performance of San Quentin, the camera panned across the crowd, rows of hardened men, faces half lit by floodlights. But at the back, there was someone else. A man in a gray suit, standing perfectly still among the inmates. The technician paused the footage. "That guy," he said. "He's not on any staff list. Not a guard, not a visitor. And look, he's staring directly at the camera." The screen froze on the man's cold, focused eyes. Hale's pulse quickened. "Zoom in." The technician leaned forward, trying to sharpen the image. The man's face came into focus, middle-aged, clean-shaven, a small scar under his left eye. Then, in the reflection of the camera lens, Hale saw something else, a second figure standing right beside the cameraman. It was Frank Blue Morgan. But the footage was dated 3 days before he was supposedly transferred. "How the hell?" Hale whispered. The technician swallowed hard. "That's not all, sir. Look at the timestamp, 9:13 p.m. That's the same time the officer's watch stopped ticking." The room fell into silence. Outside, the wind howled through the prison gates. Somewhere deep inside cell block C, a radio began to play again, the same song over and over. And as Hale watched the flickering screen, one truth hit him like a freight train. Someone inside San Quentin wasn't just covering up a murder, they were orchestrating it. But when they reopened the concert footage the next morning, one reel was missing. And what was on that missing tape would shake the prison system to its core. The missing tape. If you're watching this right now, you've officially crossed the point of no return. What's buried inside San Quentin's missing tape wasn't meant to be seen, not by the public, not even by the people who filmed it. The morning after the footage vanished, Detective Hale returned to the evidence room. The box labeled San Quentin Concert, 1969 sat open, every reel intact except one, reel 5. Whoever took it had known exactly which one to remove. It was the reel recorded from the backstage camera, the one that caught the view behind Johnny Cash as he performed. No one noticed at first. But in the prison's rumor mill, whispers spread like wildfire. Someone stole the tape. Someone's going to expose the truth. The walls have ears again. Later that afternoon, Hale was handed an unmarked envelope. Inside was a single cassette, the kind used for interviews, and a Polaroid of a dark room filled with recording equipment. Scrawled on the back in shaky handwriting. The song wasn't the message. The message was what came after. He took the tape back to his car, locked the doors and pressed play. At first only static. Then faintly a voice, low, ragged, terrified. They told me to play louder. They said the music would cover it. Then a second voice, calm, controlled. You did good, Blue. Real good. Hale froze. It was the voice of Warden Langford. The recording went on. Blue Morgan sounded desperate, confused. He didn't have to die. I didn't sign up for that. Langford replied, You don't sign up for anything in here. You just survive. Then silence. A click. The tape stopped abruptly. Hale's grip tightened on the steering wheel. His mind was racing. A guard murdered. An inmate vanished. A concert filmed under mysterious orders. And now, proof that the warden was in on something bigger than a cover-up. He rushed back to San Quentin, storming into Langford's office, tape in hand. But the office was empty. Desk drawers pulled open. The nameplate on the door, gone. One of the guards looked at him nervously. Warden left this morning, sir. Said he was heading to Sacramento. Did he say why? Hale demanded. The guard shook his head. Just said he wouldn't be coming back. That night, as Hale sat in his motel room piecing through the evidence, the phone rang. No one spoke. Just faint music playing through the line, Johnny Cash again, Folsom Prison Blues. And in the background, the sound of a door slamming shut. The next day, Hale visited the State Archive office to dig through the original concert permissions. The paperwork showed the performance wasn't organized by the prison or by Cash's label, but by an unknown intermediary listed only as Ravenlight Productions. But Ravenlight didn't exist. The address led to an abandoned warehouse near Oakland, the same place where an unmarked van had been spotted on the night the officer was killed. Inside the warehouse, dust covered everything except a single table. On it sat an open film canister, and inside the missing reel 5. Hale hesitated before sliding it into the old projector. The film flickered to life, grainy, silent, eerie. Johnny Cash stood under harsh lights, the crowd roaring. Then, behind the stage curtain, 2 guards led a man in cuffs toward the shadows. The man was Officer Trent, the same officer later found dead. The camera panned just enough to catch the warden standing beside him, talking to someone off-screen. Then, for a split second, Blue Morgan appeared, staring straight into the lens with terror in his eyes. He mouthed a single word. Help. Then chaos. The lights dimmed. The reel cut to black. Hale stepped back from the projector, his heart pounding. He'd seen enough to know this wasn't just a murder. It was an execution, staged, filmed, and buried under a concert that millions celebrated as redemption. But the question still lingered, why? Why kill an officer in secret? Why hide it behind a performance? And why involve an inmate who never should have been there? Hale looked at the final frame frozen on the screen. In the bottom corner, barely visible, was the logo of Ravenlight Productions. And beneath it, stamped faintly in red ink, was a phrase that made his blood run cold. Property of the United States Department of Corrections, Internal Operations Division. The government had ordered the concert. But for what reason? Hale was about to find out. And the answer would make him question everything he thought he knew about the justice system, the prison, and the performance that had gone down in history as music behind bars. Because what he would uncover next was that the music wasn't meant for the inmates at all. It was meant for one man. And that man was still inside San Quentin. The final verse. If you've stayed through this far, you're officially part of the few who know what San Quentin was really hiding. This is where the music fades and the silence starts to scream. Detective Hale drove back toward San Quentin as dawn painted the sky in steel gray. He hadn't slept. The missing tape, the warden's disappearance, the name Ravenlight Productions, it all led back to one place. The prison. The gate officer recognized him instantly. Back again, detective? Not for long, Hale replied, flashing his badge. Just need to check one more file. But he wasn't going for the files. He was going for the sub-basement, a part of San Quentin that most officers pretended didn't exist. Years ago it was used to hold prisoners awaiting execution. Now officially it was sealed. Yet as Hale descended the narrow staircase, the hum of electricity whispered through the walls. Lights flickered and a faint echo of music floated down the hall, the same song from the tape, Folsom Prison Blues. The corridor ended in a steel door marked, Authorized Personnel Only. Hale pushed it open. Inside, a control room lay in ruin, monitors shattered, papers scattered. On one screen, frozen footage from the missing reel 5 flickered faintly. Then he saw it. On the far wall, Ravenlight Productions printed on a series of old equipment crates. Beneath it, a smaller tag read, property of DOC Psychological Study Division. The concert wasn't entertainment. It was an experiment. He found documents detailing something called Operation Echo Tone. The plan was simple but chilling. Use live music and emotional performance to test inmate reactions under psychological stress, all while recording data for behavioral manipulation research. And the worst part? Blue Morgan, the inmate who vanished, wasn't a performer. He was the test subject. Each verse of Johnny Cash's songs was synchronized with visual cues on the stage lights, designed to trigger emotional breakdowns in selected prisoners. But during the live show, something went wrong. Blue had snapped, or maybe he'd realized the truth. Witnesses said he ran backstage screaming that the walls were listening. Minutes later, Officer Trent was dead, and the film reels were ordered destroyed. Hale's chest tightened. The concert had been immortalized as a moment of hope, but behind those cheers, a man had lost his life to a government experiment. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps echoed behind him. Looking for something, detective? It was Warden Langford. His uniform gone, wearing a dark coat instead, a faint smile curling on his lips. "You're not supposed to be here," Hale said. Langford chuckled. "Neither are you. But since you're here, might as well tell you how it ended." He stepped closer. Blue Morgan wasn't supposed to die. He wasn't even supposed to escape. But when he did, they realized the program couldn't stay hidden. So they buried it. And me? I made sure it stayed buried. Until you took the tape, Hale countered. Langford's smirk faded. "I didn't take it. Someone else did. Someone who wanted the truth out." "Who?" Hale demanded. Langford paused. "Ask yourself, detective. Who has access to everything, even this basement?" And then it hit him. The tape wasn't leaked by an inmate or a guard. It was leaked by someone higher up. Someone in the system who wanted the story to surface, to remind the world that San Quentin was never just a prison. It was a mirror. Hale took a step forward. "Where's Blue now?" Langford looked down. "You ever wonder why they never found his body?" "What are you saying?" Langford pointed toward the far end of the room, where a locked iron door stood partially ajar. Inside, dim blue lights illuminated a small, soundproof chamber. Microphones hanging from the ceiling, a single metal chair in the center. On the back wall, written in chalk, were the words, "The music never ends." And beneath the chair, a pair of shackles still bolted to the floor. Hale's heart sank. He turned to confront Langford, but the man was gone. The door swung shut behind him, sealing the room in darkness. He stumbled toward the control panel, pressing switches until one final monitor buzzed to life. On it, grainy footage began to play. Johnny Cash again. The same concert. The same stage. But now, behind the curtain, Hale saw it, a shadowed figure sitting alone in that very chair, mouthing along to the music. It was Blue Morgan. Or someone wearing his prison number. The video timestamp read April 12, 1985, 16 years after the concert. The frame glitched, and the figure looked directly into the camera, whispering a phrase Hale could barely hear. "Still here." The monitor flickered out. The room went silent except for the faint hum of the old speakers. When Hale climbed back to the surface, morning had already broken over San Quentin. Reporters were gathering outside, rumors spreading of missing files, sealed evidence, and a detective who'd seen too much. He never spoke about what he found. But years later, an anonymous tape surfaced online, the missing Reel 5. In it, Johnny Cash's voice echoed through the prison walls one last time. "San Quentin, may you rot and burn in hell." And beneath that roar, faint but undeniable, was another voice whispering from somewhere deep inside the walls. "The music never ends." If you think this story was intense, you're not ready for what comes next. Hit subscribe, because some prisons never close and some songs never stop playing.